Hey Pretty Girl Club. So this video was actually inspired by one of the comments I recently received that was based on the most recent video that I posted, which was about my colorism and texturism experiences at an HBCU. And someone commented talking about how they have personally known darker skinned people who will go out of their way to purchase foundation shades that are way lighter than their skin tone, and kind of this psychosis that a lot of darker skin unambiguous people have around their skin tones, where they will make comments like, oh, we're the same color, as if they are the same color as Alicia Keys when they are Lupita Nyong'o's color. And when someone brought that up, it actually reminded me of another story that I have from my HBCU. So there was this one girl there, and she was Nigerian. And so obviously she had a very dark skin tone, like, dark chocolate or whatever, chocolatey skin tone. And I remember whenever she would wear makeup, like foundation, her skin would look so ghostly. And she would wear the foundation from her edges, like to the edges of her hairline, all the way down to her neck. And I just remember something being off about her foundation, like, oh, maybe she's wearing too much liquid foundation or whatever. But I never really thought anything of it. I definitely noticed that it was too light. But I remember one time this other girl who was also my shade, she was this other like mixed race girl, and we went into her dorm room one time and we just happened to be hanging out in there, and we both noticed the foundation and we both looked at each other and we were like, wait, this is our shade of foundation. And then I remember one time this same Nigerian girl, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, this Nigerian girl, she's the same one who ditched me at the party so that she could get a train ran on her. I don't remember if I talked about that on here. I don't remember if I talked about that on here or on Patreon. But anyway, this is the girl who ditched me at the party. So she ended up not really being my friend either. And apparently she was doing all kinds of behaviors similar to that with other girls as well, kind of ditching friends so that she could get attention from guys and stuff like that. So anyway, she ended up beefing with a lot of other girls in the dorm. And I remember one time, the other girls in the dorm, they were going through her stuff when she wasn't there. So yes, I know this is petty and this is wrong, and like the girls shouldn't have been doing that. But I remember walking past the hallway and they were like, Exoticals United, come here. And then I walked into the room and I was like, what's going on? And then they swiped this foundation on my face. And then she was like, oh my God, it's your color. It's your color. The foundation it fits your skin and it fits my skin tone. That's how light her foundation was. She was literally wearing the foundation shade of biracial people and of people who have significant white ancestry. And she was Nigerian, straight up, unambiguous, black parents, black grandparents, black great grandparents. Everybody is like literally from Africa. And I just remember not even realizing that that's how light the foundation was that she was wearing. And I knew that it was somewhat light, but I was like, oh, I've had bad makeup days myself too. So maybe it was the lighting or it was kind of melting off. I don't know. But it just made me think about how a lot of darker skinned unambiguous people actually do have a lot of delusions. So it's funny how they'll try to project it onto you as an MLS person. If you say, oh, hey, yeah, I'm lighter skinned, then they'll be like, no, you're not. You're my color. And then that person will be like the darkest chocolate you've ever seen. And I'm not saying it in a negative way, but it's like they'll have a very deep skin tone, and then they'll try to approximate themselves to you. So I do feel like makeup is one of the ways that people approximate themselves to lighter skinned people or to mixed race people. Same thing with the whole wig thing, trying to look like a dark skinned exotical, trying to look like a dark skinned mixed person. It's their way of approximating themselves to you. And now that I think of it, the Nigerian girl, so she was wearing foundation that was my complexion. By the way, I'm like Fenty 310. So she was wearing, and her foundation in Fenty probably would have been the very darkest. Like, that girl, Shalom Block or whatever her name is, Shalom Black on YouTube, or maybe like a Jackie Aina skin tone, that sort of complexion. That was her natural complexion. But she was wearing like my skin tone, which is more like Arnell Armin or Rihanna or somebody like that. So yes, her foundation looked crazy. But not only was she wearing this light skin foundation, she was also wearing those very bone straight like wigs and weaves and stuff. So she did the straight hair, the light foundation, and I remember she also wore a lot of eyeliner to try to make her eyes kind of look more like a cat eye, almost like an Asian person. So it was almost as if she was going for kind of this mixed race, Blasian, black, white, and Asian sort of phenotype. And this just reminds me of how a lot of people, when they don't like their own phenotypes or their own like hair texture, skin tone, etc., then like if you like your phenotype, and let's say your phenotype actually does look like a lighter skinned person, or maybe you actually do have a looser hair texture or something, they don't want you to actually like yourself. But then deep down inside, those same people are often competing with you or like trying to look like you behind closed doors. And it also reminds me of how my other friend, who she was a Dominican girl at my college, how her roommate, who was also a darker skinned, unambiguous girl, had bleaching cream under her bed. So it's like the same people that are accusing you of being a colorist, texturist, featurist, or anti black person are the same people who literally are, they have bleaching creams under their beds. They're literally wearing foundation that is 20 shades lighter, wearing hair textures that are a lot silkier than their own. And like I said, I don't care what people do with their bodies. Like, if you want to do all these things to change your body, that's fine, as long as you are acknowledging that my phenotype looks beautiful. So don't go around and change your whole body and then turn around and say that we are mediocre, or that, nobody wants us except dusties, or that we're just basic and no one's jealous of us. No one wants to look like us. Well, that's false. So that's the beef that I have with the Black empowerment space, because I feel like a lot of those women, they refuse to acknowledge the fact that a lot of their subscribers are the very women who they themselves want to look like a dark-skinned exotical or a lighter-skinned exotical. So it's the hypocrisy for me. But do you guys have any stories of unambiguous people who were delusional about their skin tones, where maybe they tried to say they were a lot lighter than they are, or maybe they wore hair textures that were way silkier than theirs, or maybe they wore foundation shades that were way silkier than theirs, or they tried to say, "Oh, I'm the same shade as you." Meanwhile, you were at least 10 to 15 shades lighter than them. And they do this as a way to invalidate you, or as a way to validate themselves. Like, "Oh, I'm only 10 shades off from you, so, I'm right there next to you." And I mean, don't get me wrong, as long as if they're saying it in a nice way, I don't really care. But if they're saying it in a way as to like, "Oh, I'm on the same level as you, and like you need to shut up and humble yourself, and like basically I'm in competition with you, and like I'm better than you, or you're not that pretty," sort of talking point, "you're not that light skinned." Anytime somebody says you're not that light skinned, what they're really trying to say is you're not that pretty because you're not that white passing. So that's the internalized anti-blackness that I try to expose on this channel, because I feel like anti-blackness is used a lot against MLS people. And have you also noticed how, let's say you're a light-skinned person, like for example with me, if I wore, actually this happened at my HBCU, if I wore a foundation shade that was my exact skin tone, then like I remember one girl, she also happened to be African. Now that I think of it, she happened to also be, I think, Nigerian as well. I remember she made a comment trying to imply that my foundation shade, that it was too light, when it actually wasn't. It was one shade too dark. And I had just got matched at Sephora the day before. And so I remember her trying to imply that it was too light. And I'm just thinking, it's funny how a lot of people who are not even light-skinned, they're not your same complexion whatsoever, they will try to judge if, let's say, you're wearing a foundation shade that is one shade brighter, or you're wearing a concealer that's like a couple shades brighter than your skin tone because you're contouring and highlighting or whatever. Or let's say it's the winter time and you get paler. These people will sometimes project onto you. They'll say, "Oh, well, you're bleaching. Oh, well, if you don't want to go in the sun, you're being a colorist. Oh, if you put on sunscreen, you're being a colorist. You put on sunblock, oh, it's because you're racist. You hate yourself. You're trying to be lighter. Oh, you just wish you were white." So there's all this projection. Meanwhile, those people are often the same ones with bleaching creams under their beds, wearing foundation shades that are 15 shades lighter than themselves, and wearing hair textures that are way silkier than theirs. They'll go from a 4C to a 1C hair texture with wigs on. I don't even wear a 1C hair texture extensions. I mean, to each his own, but just pay your exotical tax and put some respect on our names, because we've been silent for far too long. We've been doormats for far too long. And now we are going to bring this to light, because we're tired of people using anti-blackness against us, mixed race black people, lighter skinned black people, we're tired of people using those talking points against us, when in reality, we're not the ones who created colorism. We're not the main ones who are perpetuating colorism. We're not the main ones who are upholding colorism. In fact, a lot of us lighter skinned people have been bullied so much to the point where we don't even feel comfortable acknowledging our skin tones. We don't even feel comfortable acknowledging our hair textures or our mixed race heritage. And now we are speaking up. That's right, the Exoticals have united. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.